Profit First. This video is based on key insights from the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Introduction. Mike Michalowicz begins by sharing a powerful story about Debbie Horovich, a business owner who realized her company wasn't doing well after using a simple financial checkup tool he calls the instant assessment. Debbie's emotional reaction, repeatedly calling herself a fool, highlighted a common problem. Many entrepreneurs work incredibly hard but don't see the profits they deserve. Michalowicz emphasizes that often, the issue isn't a lack of effort, but a flawed system. He shares his own experience, admitting he once built a successful business that never actually made a profit, masking financial struggles with growth and expansion. This led him to develop the Profit First system, initially to fix his own financial problems. Michalowicz explains that traditional financial advice, sales minus expenses equals profit, is actually backwards and doesn't work well for most businesses. He compares it to telling someone to fly by simply flapping their arms, a clearly impossible task. The traditional method assumes profit will automatically appear after all expenses are paid, but in reality, there's often nothing left over. Profit First flips this around, prioritizing profit first before expenses. This isn't about being greedy. It's about recognizing that a business needs profit to survive and thrive. He illustrates this with the story of Keith Fear, a hot air balloon business owner who initially doubted the system but saw a massive increase in profits after implementing it. The author stresses that profit first isn't about fixing the entrepreneur, but about fixing the financial system. He acknowledges that change can be scary, and many people stick with what's familiar even if it's not working. He shares statistics showing that a large percentage of businesses fail due to lack of profitability, and that even seemingly successful businesses can be on the brink of financial disaster. He points out that many entrepreneurs hide their financial struggles, presenting a false image of success. Michalowicz's goal is to change this, to help entrepreneurs build businesses that are genuinely profitable and sustainable. Michalowicz highlights the growing community of professionals, accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches, who are now trained in the Profit First system, demonstrating its increasing acceptance and effectiveness. He emphasizes that Profit First is designed to be simple and straightforward, and that it can be implemented by anyone, regardless of their business size or experience. He encourages readers to commit to learning and applying the system, emphasizing that taking action is crucial. He believes that Profit First can eradicate entrepreneurial poverty, allowing business owners to achieve both financial freedom and the joy of doing work they love. He concludes by stating that this updated version of the book includes improvements and new insights based on feedback from those who have already successfully implemented the system. Chapter 1. Your business is an out-of-control cash-eating monster. Mike Michalowicz begins by painting a stark picture for business owners. Many businesses fail, and even those that survive often struggle with debt and stress. He uses the story of Frankenstein to illustrate how a creation, born from good intentions, can become a monstrous problem. Just as Dr. Frankenstein stitched together a being that spiraled out of control, many entrepreneurs find their businesses have become cash-eating monsters, consuming their time, money, and peace of mind. Michalowicz shares his own wake-up call, receiving a large check from the sale of a company and then quickly squandering it on extravagant purchases. This experience taught him a crucial lesson: making money is different from taking profit. He realized he was skilled at generating revenue, but terrible at managing it, falling into a cycle of spending everything he earned. The turning point for Michalowicz came with a simple gesture from his daughter, who offered her piggy bank savings when he confessed his financial ruin. This moment highlighted the importance of saving and protecting money, a concept even a 9-year-old understood. He realized he had lost sight of basic financial principles, prioritizing growth over profitability. He describes a common trap entrepreneurs fall into: focusing solely on increasing sales while neglecting the bottom line. This leads to a check-to-check existence, where businesses are constantly scrambling to cover expenses and remain perpetually in crisis mode. Michalowicz argues that simply growing a business doesn't guarantee success. It's essential to build a financially healthy foundation. Michalowicz criticizes the traditional approach to accounting, which he believes prioritizes sales and expenses over profit. He explains that this method, known as GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, often leaves profit as an afterthought, a leftover amount after all other obligations are met. He contrasts this with a more practical definition of profit, cash in the bank. He emphasizes that entrepreneurs need a simple system to manage their cash flow, one that aligns with their natural tendencies rather than requiring them to become accounting experts. He points out that humans are not always logical and often revert to established habits, especially during times of stress. Therefore, a successful financial system should work with these habits, not against them. He introduces the concept of the survival trap, where entrepreneurs constantly chase revenue to escape immediate crises, often making decisions that take them further away from their long-term vision. This trap is fueled by the belief that more sales will eventually lead to profit, but it often results in a cycle of debt and stress. Michalowicz uses the example of a lawn care business owner who continuously adds new services to generate quick cash, ultimately diluting his focus and expertise. He stresses that sustained profitability requires efficiency and a clear understanding of what truly drives value. He argues that focusing on profit first, rather than growth, allows businesses to streamline operations, make informed decisions, and build a solid financial foundation. Michalowicz concludes by encouraging readers to commit to profitability and take action. He asks them to email him, signaling their dedication to changing their financial habits. He emphasizes that the system he will share is designed to be simple and effective, working with human nature to achieve lasting financial success. He believes that by prioritizing profit, entrepreneurs can transform their businesses from monstrous burdens into obedient, cash-generating assets, ultimately achieving a happily ever after rather than a tragic ending like the one in Frankenstein. Chapter 2: The Core Principles of Profit First. Mike Michalowicz begins by sharing a personal story of financial hardship, highlighting how even a wake-up call like his daughter offering her piggy bank wasn't enough to immediately change his habits. He admits to falling into depression and relying on unhealthy coping mechanisms, emphasizing that many business owners likely experience similar struggles. He stresses that his profit-first system is a solution to prevent such crises. Michalowicz describes a turning point while watching a public television program about healthy eating. A fitness expert explained that trying to drastically change ingrained habits is difficult. Instead, the expert suggested changing the environment around those habits. For example, using smaller plates leads to smaller portions without requiring a conscious effort to eat less. This sparked a realization in Michalowicz. His business was like a huge plate, and he was consuming every penny that came in. He realized he hadn't truly managed money well, even when his businesses appeared successful. He spent more as he earned more, believing every expense was necessary. He discovered that he could adapt to any financial situation, thriving with little money or easily wasting a large sum. This led him to understand that limiting available funds forces innovation and frugality. He illustrates this with a simple analogy. A nearly empty tube of toothpaste is squeezed and used more carefully than a full one. Applying this to business, Michalowicz realized that taking profit first, before paying expenses, could change everything. This was a radical idea for someone who had always focused on top-line revenue. Michalowicz outlines 4 core principles inspired by dietary science. The first, using small plates, directly translates to allocating a smaller percentage of income to operating expenses. The second, serving sequentially, means prioritizing profit allocation before paying bills. The third, removing temptation, involves separating profit funds from operating funds to avoid dipping into them. The fourth, enforcing a rhythm, suggests a consistent, scheduled allocation process like twice a month to maintain control and awareness of cash flow. He introduces Parkinson's law, which states that demand expands to meet supply. In the context of business, this means expenses tend to rise to match income. By intentionally limiting available funds, businesses are forced to become more efficient and innovative. He also explains the primacy effect, which suggests we give more weight to the first thing we encounter. By prioritizing profit in the accounting formula, sales, profit equals expenses, businesses focus on profitability from the start. Michalowicz emphasizes the importance of removing temptation by keeping profit funds separate and inaccessible. He also advocates for establishing a regular rhythm for allocating funds and paying bills, creating a predictable and manageable cash flow. He addresses the common concern about hindering growth by taking profit first, arguing that true growth comes from profitability. When a business prioritizes profit, it's forced to identify what truly works and eliminate wasteful spending. To begin, Michalowicz encourages readers to take a small, manageable step. Open a separate bank account labeled Profit and transfer just 1% of every deposit into it. This seemingly insignificant amount builds confidence and demonstrates the power of the system. He urges readers to trust the process and resist the urge to immediately spend the profit, emphasizing that this small step can lead to significant long-term financial success. Chapter 3: Setting up Profit First for Your Business. Mike Michalowicz begins by sharing a heartwarming story about his mother's clever way of managing money. Even when her income changed, she always had enough for what she needed. She used an envelope system, dividing her paycheck into labeled envelopes for things like food, mortgage, and fun. This simple method taught him a powerful lesson. When money is set aside for a specific purpose, it's easier to make sure those needs are met. He points out that many people from older generations used similar systems, proving it's a reliable way to stay on top of finances. Michalowicz explains that Profit First is like a modern version of this envelope system, but instead of using paper envelopes, it uses separate bank accounts. The author contrasts this sensible approach with what most business owners do, which he calls bank balance accounting. This is where people simply check their bank account to see how much money they have and make decisions based on that number. While it seems straightforward, Michalowicz argues that it's not very effective. He playfully describes how accountants want business owners to spend hours analyzing complicated financial reports, like profit and loss statements and balance sheets, to understand their business's health. He admits that many entrepreneurs, himself included, find these reports confusing and overwhelming. Instead, they fall back on simply looking at their bank balance. Michalowicz emphasizes that bank balance accounting often leads to a problem. Business owners struggle to pay themselves. Profit First doesn't try to change this natural behavior of checking bank balances. Instead, it adds structure to it. The system uses multiple bank accounts, each dedicated to a specific purpose, so when a business owner checks their balance, they immediately know how much money is available for each area of the business. It's like having labeled envelopes right in their bank account. To implement Profit First, Michalowicz outlines 5 essential bank accounts: income, profit, owner's comp, compensation for the owner, tax, and operating expenses, OPEX. He recommends setting these up as checking accounts for easy access. The existing primary business checking account can be renamed the OPEX account. He stresses the importance of setting up 2 additional, no temptation, accounts at a separate bank. These accounts, profit hold and tax hold, are for safely storing the money allocated for profit and taxes, making it harder to spend it on other things. The author explains that the purpose of the no temptation accounts is to resist the urge to dip into funds meant for profit or taxes. He uses a humorous analogy. If you can't see or easily access something, you're less likely to use it. He shares a story about a friend who asked his bank to make accessing his profit and tax accounts as difficult as possible, even requesting the bank manager to slap him if he tried to withdraw the money. This illustrates the importance of creating barriers to prevent impulsive spending. Michalowicz addresses 2 common concerns. Some business owners worry they can't take a profit if they haven't been profitable in the past. He explains that by prioritizing profit first, they force themselves to operate more efficiently and find ways to make it work. He introduces Parkinson's law, which states that expenses will rise to meet income. By taking profit first, you are operating on less and finding ways to make it work. Others question why they can't simply track profit-first allocations on a spreadsheet or in their accounting software. He argues that these tools aren't as effective because they don't change the fundamental behavior of checking bank balances. The system needs to be integrated directly into the bank accounts to be truly effective. Finally, Michalowicz provides practical advice on choosing banks. He suggests prioritizing convenience for the primary bank and inconvenience for the no-temptation bank. He encourages readers to negotiate fees and minimum balance requirements with their banks, and to be willing to switch banks if necessary. He emphasizes that banks should serve the business owner, not the other way around. He concludes by urging readers to take immediate action, setting up their accounts and starting the profit-first process. He believes that the system can transform their businesses and help them achieve lasting profitability. Chapter 4: Assessing the Health of Your Business. Mike Michalowicz begins this part of the book by sharing how people often react when they first truly look at their business's finances with shock, and sometimes even anger. He recounts a story about business coach Lisa Robin Young, who got upset when she realized she'd been spending too much money on things she thought were essential. This initial reaction is common, Michalowicz explains, because facing the truth about money can be hard, especially if you thought things were going okay. He stresses that avoiding the truth won't make things better. It just delays the inevitable. It's like ignoring a problem until it explodes in your face. Michalowicz uses Lisa's experience to illustrate how profit first can help. Lisa had cash flow, but it didn't feel like she was making progress. Once she started using the profit first system, she realized why. She was spending everything she made and not actually building profit. Over time, she was able to cut costs, focus her business, and even double her revenue. She went from feeling stressed and overworked to having a profitable business that allowed her more free time. This example shows that profit first isn't just about numbers. It's about changing how you think about and manage your money. The author emphasizes that profit first is a cash-based system. It doesn't matter what your accounting software says, only what money actually comes in and goes out. He clarifies this by saying things like depreciation or accounts receivable aren't important in this system. It's simple: did you receive the cash and did you spend the cash? That's all that matters. He encourages readers to gather their financial statements, profit and loss statements, tax returns, and balance sheets to complete what he calls the instant assessment. However, he acknowledges that it's okay if you don't have these documents readily available. You can still get a good estimate. The instant assessment is the first step in the profit first process. It's designed to give you a clear picture of your business's financial health. Michalowicz warns that it might be uncomfortable, comparing it to a root canal or colonoscopy. But it's a necessary step to start improving your finances. The assessment involves filling out a form with information about your revenue, costs, owner's compensation, taxes, and profit. The author provides guidance on how to calculate these numbers, explaining the difference between real revenue after subtracting the cost of materials or subcontractors, and gross profit. He stresses that the goal isn't perfection, but to get a general understanding of where your money is going. Michalowicz then introduces target allocation percentages, or TAPs, which are recommended percentages for allocating your revenue to different areas of your business: profit, owner's compensation, taxes, and operating expenses. These percentages vary depending on your revenue level. He explains that these are targets to work towards, not strict rules. He shares an example of a law firm that completed the assessment and discovered they weren't nearly as profitable as they thought. The owners were overpaid, and their operating expenses were too high. This example highlights how the assessment can reveal hidden problems and guide you towards making necessary changes. He shares his own experience of realizing he was still overspending, even after becoming frugal. He realized he was holding onto unnecessary expenses simply because they made him feel successful. He cut those expenses and focused on what truly mattered, leading to increased profitability. Michalowicz acknowledges that facing these truths can be difficult, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed or angry. He reassures readers that they're not alone and encourages them to start small. For new businesses with little or no revenue, Michalowicz suggests starting with very small profit allocations, just 1%, to build the habit of prioritizing profit. He advises focusing on sales and growth in the early stages and gradually increasing profit allocations over time. He concludes by urging readers to complete the instant assessment and to remember that facing the truth is the first step towards financial success. He encourages readers to set up a separate bank account for profit, even if they only deposit a small amount each time, to start building the habit of prioritizing profit. Chapter 5: Allocation Percentages. Mike Michalowicz begins this part of his book by sharing a story about a motivational speaker who learned a valuable lesson about setting goals. The speaker was taught to aim for an 80% sales rate, but after much effort, she only reached 75%. It turned out her instructor had actually said 18%, not 80%. Michalowicz uses this to show that believing in a goal, even a seemingly high one, can help you achieve more than you thought possible. He believes that if you work towards a number and truly believe you can reach it, you'll likely surpass expectations. The core of this section focuses on setting allocation percentages, deciding how much money goes to profit, the owner's pay, and taxes. Michalowicz stresses that many business owners get stuck trying to perfect these percentages before even starting, a trap he calls analysis paralysis. He advises against getting lost in the details and encourages readers to simply begin implementing the system, knowing they can adjust later. However, he also cautions against rushing in too quickly without proper preparation. He uses the analogy of donating blood. Trying to donate too much at once is harmful, but small, consistent donations add up over time. Michalowicz introduces the idea of target allocation percentages, TAPs, which are based on his research of successful companies. These percentages serve as goals to work towards, not starting points. He emphasizes that every business is different, but the TAPs provide a good benchmark. He encourages optimism and believing in your business's potential to achieve these targets, referencing Henry Ford's famous quote about belief. If a business is already exceeding the TAPs, Michalowicz urges them to continue pushing for even greater success. He then explains current allocation percentages, CAPs, which represent where a business is currently at. The goal is to gradually move from the CAPs towards the TAPs. For example, if a business currently makes no profit, the initial profit CAP might be just 1%, increasing to 3% the next quarter, and so on. Michalowicz warns against the mistake of immediately trying to take a large profit percentage, comparing it to trying to donate too much blood at once. He stresses the importance of small, consistent steps. He explains that a healthy business needs to fuel itself, and taking too much profit too soon can starve the business of necessary resources. Michalowicz highlights the importance of paying yourself, the owner, a fair wage. He argues that a business should serve the owner, not the other way around. He suggests determining a salary based on the actual work the owner does, not just a title like CEO. He outlines two options for determining owner's comp: either assessing the work done and paying a comparable salary, or using the percentages suggested in the initial assessment. He emphasizes that the owner is the most important employee and should be treated as such. He shares a story about a friend, Rodrigo, who was underpaying himself and struggling financially despite having a successful business. Finally, Michalowicz addresses taxes, explaining that the Profit First system aims to cover both business and personal income taxes. He recommends consulting with an accountant to determine the appropriate tax percentage, suggesting a starting point of around 35% for many businesses. He explains how to calculate the tax percentage based on operating expenses and taxable income. He stresses the peace of mind that comes with knowing taxes are being set aside consistently. He encourages readers to set their TAPs, adjust their initial assessment, and begin gradually increasing their allocation percentages, moving towards a healthier and more profitable business. Chapter 6: Putting Profit First into Motion. Mike Michalowicz begins this part of the book by sharing the story of Jorge Morales and Jose Payne, two early adopters of his Profit First system. They were so convinced by a small mention of the idea in his previous book that they traveled to meet him and immediately started using it in their business, specialized ECU repair. They didn't wait for a perfect plan, they just jumped in and saw results, even using their early profits to fund a trip to New York City. Their story highlights a key point. Many business owners believe success requires constant sacrifice, delaying enjoyment until the business is big enough. Michalowicz argues this isn't true. A business should improve your life, not control it. Jorge and Jose initially focused on increasing their salaries each year, a common approach. However, after discovering Profit First, they tweaked the system to fit their growing business, using it to manage growth and avoid financial trouble. They surpassed their accountant's predictions, tripled their staff, and maintained healthy finances, all while achieving the lifestyle they originally envisioned. Michalowicz checked in with them years later to find they were thriving, paying employees well, investing in equipment, and increasing their profit percentage. Their accountant, initially skeptical, became a believer once they saw the system's success. This demonstrates that Profit First isn't just a theory, it works in the real world. Michalowicz emphasizes that the specific percentages used in Profit First aren't rigid rules. The core idea is to prioritize profit, owner's compensation, and taxes first, then operate the business with what's left. He explains that the percentages are targets to work towards, and the system will transform a business into an efficient, profit-generating machine, no matter how small the initial deposit. The first day of implementing Profit First involves transparency. Michalowicz advises business owners to inform their financial professionals, accountants, and bookkeepers about the system. While some may be resistant, clinging to traditional accounting methods, he stresses that success is possible even without their buy-in. He even provides a resource, Profit First Professionals.com, to connect business owners with accountants already familiar with and using the system. He uses a strong analogy. Why take financial advice from someone who doesn't follow their own advice? Michalowicz acknowledges that accountants might initially react negatively, as Profit First challenges conventional wisdom. He suggests asking if they have practical experience with similar, pay yourself first, systems, and if not, questioning their claims that it doesn't work. He playfully suggests a direct challenge. Ask how many of their clients are consistently profitable under their guidance. He argues that most accountants are accustomed to managing businesses that struggle, and Profit First offers a different, more successful approach. The practical implementation begins with setting up accounts. Business owners need 5 accounts at their primary bank: income, profit, owner's comp, tax, and operating expenses (OPEX), and 2 at a separate bank: profit hold and tax hold. These accounts are then nicknamed with their current allocation percentages, CAPs, which are the starting points for allocating funds, and their target allocation percentages, TAPs, representing the long-term goals. This clear labeling helps visualize where money is going and what it's intended for. Michalowicz introduces the concept of starting small with CAPs. Instead of aiming for ambitious percentages immediately, he recommends adding just 1% to profit, owner's comp, and tax, adjusting operating expenses accordingly. This makes the system less daunting and easier to adopt. He shares how Jorge and Jose started with a modest 2% profit allocation, demonstrating that even a small start can be effective. The key is to establish a routine and gradually increase percentages over time. The twice-monthly rhythm of allocating funds on the 10th and 25th of each month is crucial. This consistent schedule, inspired by advice from Deborah Courtwright, a bookkeeping expert, helps maintain control over finances and identify trends. It shifts the focus from reactive bill paying to proactive financial management. By consistently allocating funds, business owners gain a clearer understanding of their cash flow and can make informed decisions about expenses. Michalowicz emphasizes the importance of quarterly profit distributions. Just like shareholders in a public company, business owners deserve a reward for their investment and risk. He advises taking 50% of the accumulated profit and using it for personal enjoyment while leaving the other 50% as a reserve. This reinforces the idea that the business should serve the owner, not the other way around. He also stresses the importance of paying taxes quarterly and adjusting percentages as needed. Finally, Michalowicz encourages readers to view profit first as a lifestyle, not just a financial system. He shares Jorge's sentiment that it's a way of life, a commitment to building a business that supports their desired lifestyle. He urges readers to create a celebration list of ways to enjoy their profit distributions and to block out the 10th and 25th of each month for consistent financial management. He concludes by reiterating the transformative power of profit first and its ability to turn a cash-eating monster into a cash-generating asset. Chapter 7, Destroy Your Debt. Mike Michalowicz begins by explaining that simply making a lot of money doesn't mean a business is truly healthy. It's like dressing up something broken. It might look good, but it's still not fixed. He uses the example of a monster in a tuxedo. It might seem put together, but one small problem could cause everything to fall apart. This illustrates that focusing only on revenue, the top line, is a mistake. A business needs a solid financial foundation, not just a lot of money coming in. The author shares a story about his friend Pete, who suddenly found himself owing $1 million to the bank. The bank can demand the full amount back at any time, even if payments have been made regularly. Pete was in a panic, and Mike offered to help him using the principles of profit first. This story highlights a common danger for business owners: getting into debt without enough cash reserves. It's a scary situation, and it shows how quickly things can go wrong. Michalowicz emphasizes that focusing solely on paying down debt isn't the answer. It's a trap. He argues that if you only concentrate on debt, that's all you'll ever do. Instead, he suggests a shift in mindset. He believes that real change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the effort to change. This is like deciding to lose weight. It's hard work, but the discomfort of being unhealthy eventually becomes a stronger motivator. He draws a parallel to crash dieting. Just like a crash diet doesn't lead to lasting weight loss, simply trying to eliminate debt quickly won't solve the underlying financial problems. People often revert to old habits once the immediate crisis is over. The author uses the humorous image of someone giving up grapefruit and water for jelly beans and soda to illustrate this point. The key is to build healthy financial habits that last. Mike explains that Pete needed to focus on building a healthy business, not just paying off debt. He needed to understand that profit isn't something to think about after debt is gone. It's essential during the debt reduction process. The author stresses that establishing a habit of prioritizing profit is crucial for long-term financial health. Michalowicz introduces a core concept: allocating 99% of profits to debt repayment while keeping 1% for a small reward. This allows for aggressive debt reduction while still reinforcing the positive habit of taking profit. He believes that starting this habit now is more important than waiting until debt is eliminated. Building these efficiencies will permanently eradicate debt and create a steady stream of profit. The author then shares a story about Suze Orman, a financial expert, who said that getting out of debt requires enjoying saving more than spending. This is a powerful idea. It's about changing your emotional connection to money. If saving feels good, you'll naturally look for ways to do it. If spending feels good, you'll be more likely to overspend. This ties into the idea of motivation. We're drawn to things that bring us pleasure and avoid things that cause us pain. Mike explains that pain is a powerful motivator, but it's not enough on its own. It gets you started, but pleasure keeps you going. He uses the example of weight loss again, explaining that the initial pain of being overweight motivates people to start a diet, but the pleasure of feeling healthy and confident is what keeps them on track. He encourages readers to find joy in saving, celebrating every small victory. This could be anything from a happy dance to a small treat. The goal is to train your mind to associate saving with positive emotions. Michalowicz cautions against basing financial decisions on the best month a business has ever had. He explains that entrepreneurs often mistakenly believe their best month is the new normal and start spending accordingly. This is a dangerous trap. He suggests looking at a 12-month rolling average and comparing current months to the same month in the previous year for a more realistic picture. He shares an anecdote from accountants who joke that when a client says they don't know how to spend a windfall of money, they know it won't last long. The author emphasizes the importance of percentages in financial planning. Income varies, but percentages remain consistent. He explains how the Profit First system uses percentages to allocate funds to different accounts, including one for owner's compensation. This ensures a consistent salary even during slow months. He advises entrepreneurs to determine their salary based on their slowest months and gradually increase it as profits grow. Mike introduces the debt freeze, a method for stopping debt accumulation and aggressively paying down existing debt. He stresses that this isn't about drastic cuts that could harm the business, but about eliminating unnecessary expenses. He guides readers through a process of categorizing expenses as profit-generating, replaceable, or unnecessary. He then advises cutting all unnecessary expenses and negotiating lower rates for replaceable expenses. He acknowledges that cutting labor costs can be difficult, but often necessary. He encourages entrepreneurs to evaluate each employee's role and consider layoffs if needed, emphasizing the importance of supporting affected employees. The author urges readers to stop automatic payments and negotiate with vendors to reduce costs. He suggests a just one more day approach to spending, delaying purchases to see if they're truly necessary. He shares a story about his friend Jesse Cole, who used profit-first principles to revitalize his baseball team and pay off over $1 million in debt. Finally, Mike Michalowicz stresses the importance of small, consistent actions. He encourages readers to start with the smallest debt first, using the debt snowball method, and to celebrate every victory along the way. He believes that by focusing on building positive financial habits, anyone can overcome debt and achieve lasting financial freedom. Chapter 8: Find Money Within Your Business. Mike Michalowicz begins by pointing out that businesses often have more money hidden within them than owners realize. It just takes some digging to find it. He shares a story from a dinner with business leaders where someone challenged his profit-first ideas. This person believed you needed profit before you could take it, which Michalowicz strongly disagrees with. He argues that thinking like that actually stops businesses from growing and benefiting from their hard work. Then, a different leader at the dinner, referred to as Mr. Innovator, shared his own success story. He grew a $50 million company by cleverly rethinking how deliveries were made. His company delivered oil to different types of customers. Some needed large amounts, others just a little. They used to have 2 separate sets of trucks and drivers, which was expensive. Mr. Innovator realized they could combine everything into one truck with a divided section, cutting costs nearly in half and allowing the business to thrive. This story illustrates that innovation and streamlining can unlock hidden money within a business. Michalowicz emphasizes that focusing on increasing sales alone isn't the answer to financial problems. It's like trying to collect rainwater while ignoring a well right under your feet. He uses the example of Idaho, which relies heavily on underground water sources despite having less rainfall than average. This shows that the real potential for profit lies in improving efficiency, what happens under the surface of the business, rather than just chasing more sales. He introduces the idea of the profit squeeze, explaining that when a business finds a way to become very profitable, competitors will quickly try to copy that success. This leads to price drops and reduced profit margins for everyone. Michalowicz stresses that even if you think you're doing well with profit, you need to keep finding ways to improve efficiency, because competition will always try to catch up. It's a continuous cycle of innovation. Michalowicz uses the analogy of a travel-sized tube of toothpaste to explain how to make resources last. Just like you use a small tube more carefully, businesses need to be resourceful and innovative to stretch their resources further. This ties into Parkinson's law, which suggests that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. He highlights the importance of increasing profit margins, the amount of money earned on each product or service. Improving efficiency boosts these margins, leading to higher profits without needing more sales. Then, when sales do increase, the profits skyrocket. It's a simple formula: efficiency first, then sales, then more efficiency, then more sales, and so on. Michalowicz encourages business owners to ask a big, challenging question: how can I get 2 times the results with half the effort? He shares the story of Wesley Rocha, who ran a marketing company. Wesley didn't take a raise for 10 years and realized his expenses were out of control. He slowly started cutting costs, even letting go of some employees, but found ways to streamline processes and improve efficiency. This allowed him to double his profits and finally afford a down payment on a house. He also discusses the importance of firing bad clients. He references a study that showed the top 20% of clients generate 80% of revenue and 150% of the profit. The bottom 20% actually lose money. Michalowicz advises businesses to focus on attracting and serving clients who are a good fit and contribute to profitability, and to politely let go of those who drain resources without providing sufficient return. He encourages businesses to clone their best clients, finding more customers who are similar to those who are already highly profitable. Michalowicz cautions against simply chasing more sales without addressing efficiency. He shares the story of his lawn guy, Ernie, who started offering additional services like gutter cleaning and roof repair. While Ernie increased his sales, he ended up spending more money on tools and labor, and even had to redo his original work. This illustrates how expanding services without a focus on efficiency can actually lead to losses. He contrasts this with Sean, another lawn care professional who focused on efficiency and served more clients with the same resources. Ultimately, Michalowicz emphasizes that selling smart, focusing on efficiency, attracting ideal clients, and refining offerings is the key to sustainable profitability. He encourages readers to take action by identifying areas for improvement, firing bad clients, and challenging themselves to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Chapter 9: Profit First Advanced Techniques. Mike Michalowicz believes that once entrepreneurs get comfortable with the basic profit first system, they can take their financial management to an even higher level. He shares a story from his ProfitCon conference, where someone asked if the standard 5 accounts worked for every business. The answer, according to his colleague Mo, is simple: add another account. This is where things get customized. Michalowicz emphasizes that jumping into these advanced techniques isn't something to do right away. It's like training for a marathon; you need to build up to it. Entrepreneurs should be consistently making their allocations, seeing some profit, experiencing distributions, and having someone to keep them accountable for at least 6 months before adding more accounts. It's about mastering the basics first. The core idea behind these advanced techniques is simplification. It might seem counterintuitive to add more accounts, but Michalowicz explains that it actually provides a clearer picture of your finances. Knowing exactly how much money is available for specific things helps make better decisions and avoid overcommitting. For example, if you know you only have $500 for marketing, you won't promise a $1,000 ad campaign. One key account Michalowicz recommends is the Vault. This is a safe, low-risk account for emergencies. He explains that relying solely on the profit account for unexpected expenses can be risky, especially if a quarter is slow. The Vault aims to hold 3 months' worth of business expenses, providing a cushion during tough times. Importantly, He stresses the need to create rules for using the vault, like automatically cutting costs if sales drop, to avoid impulsive decisions during a crisis. The goal isn't just to buy time, but to force proactive decision-making. Another helpful account is the stocking account. This is for big purchases or inventory. Imagine a roofing supply company that needs to buy 10,000 nails at a time, even though they only use a few each month. Instead of being hit with a $5,000 bill all at once, they can allocate a small amount each month, $250 in this case, into the stocking account. This makes the large purchase much more manageable. Michalowicz also introduces the pass-through account. This is for money that isn't actually profit, like reimbursements from clients for travel expenses. Instead of mixing this money with regular income, it goes directly into this account and then to the vendor. A materials account is similar, but specifically for the cost of materials used in the business. If a business primarily manages materials for clients, this account is crucial. For businesses that use subcontractors or commission-based employees, subcontractor commission accounts help manage those payments separately. He also suggests an employee payroll account to make paying employees easier and more predictable. An equipment account helps save for future big purchases like computers. A DRIP account is for advance payments on long-term projects, releasing funds gradually as work is completed. A petty cash account is for small, everyday expenses. A prepayment account helps take advantage of discounts for paying services in advance. Finally, a sales tax account ensures that sales tax money is immediately set aside and not accidentally spent. Michalowicz encourages entrepreneurs to document their system, writing down the purpose of each account and the allocation process. He also stresses the importance of shifting focus away from the monthly nut, the amount of money needed just to cover expenses, and instead focusing on the required income for allocation, which is the amount needed to achieve profitability and pay owners. He provides a personal example, showing his own account setup and how he calculates his income needs. He also addresses businesses with multiple owners, explaining that the required income for allocation needs to account for everyone's desired income. He emphasizes separating profit and tax money into separate banks to avoid temptation. Finally, Michalowicz touches on raising capital, advising entrepreneurs to be profitable first before seeking investment. He suggests creating an outside capital account to manage funds received from investors. He also offers a simple rule of thumb for determining if a business can afford a new employee. Real revenue should be between $150,000 and $250,000 per employee. He concludes with several mini-power tactics, like renaming the tax account to the government's money to discourage spending it, hiding accounts from view, automating transfers from outside income accounts, and setting up account notifications. He encourages readers to choose one of these tactics and plan to implement it in the future. Chapter 10, The Profit First Life. Mike Michalowicz begins this chapter with a surprising idea from Jorge, a successful business owner who believes that once you earn enough money, you don't need to budget. This initially challenges Michalowicz's frugal mindset, but Jorge explains that profit first creates restrictions to make a business profitable, and those restrictions can ease when profit is distributed. It's about having enough profit that you don't constantly worry about whether you can afford things. Jorge and his business partner, Jose, can enjoy vacations and life without stressing over costs because they consistently follow the profit-first system. They know their profit is coming, and their business can still grow. Michalowicz shares the story of Lori Dutcher, who used profit first to finally take her family on a Disney vacation. Before profit first, Lori was investing everything back into her business and barely making ends meet. Once she implemented the system, her finances stabilized, and she had enough profit to fund a memorable family trip. Importantly, Lori discovered that focusing on profit actually accelerated her business growth, a common outcome when businesses prioritize taking profit first. It's about giving yourself permission to enjoy the rewards of your hard work, not endlessly deferring them. This concept extends beyond business to personal finances, Michalowicz explains. Just like a business, your life involves income and expenses, potential crises, and a vision for the future. Profit-first principles can be applied to personal finances to achieve financial freedom, the ability to do what you want, when you want. This doesn't necessarily mean being rich, but having enough saved and earning enough interest that your lifestyle is supported without constant worry. Jorge and Jose initially used their profit for travel, but now prioritize different goals, like supporting Jorge's wife's law school education and Jose's home renovation. Michalowicz emphasizes that the business and your personal life are deeply connected, almost like conjoined twins. Separating the two requires careful planning. He outlines a 5-step process to apply profit first to personal finances. First, face your financial reality by listing all bills and debts. Second, stop taking on new debt. Third, set up automatic transfers to a retirement account and prioritize debt repayment. Fourth, create small plates, multiple accounts for different spending categories. These accounts include an income account for deposits, a vault account for emergencies, a recurring payments account for bills, day-to-day accounts for everyday expenses, and a debt destroyer account to aggressively pay down debt. The vault account is crucial, serving as a safety net and eventually a source of income through interest. Day-to-day accounts help manage spending, and the debt destroyer account focuses on eliminating debt using the snowball method, paying off the smallest debt first for a psychological boost. Michalowicz strongly advises against relying on credit cards, except for a single emergency card with a decreasing limit, held by a trusted friend to prevent impulsive spending. He stresses that removing temptation is key. Michalowicz recounts his own past struggles with overspending and clinging to a lifestyle he couldn't truly afford, even after recognizing the problem. He realized that ripping off the Band-Aid, making drastic cuts all at once, was more effective than gradual reductions. He eliminated luxury cars, club memberships, and unnecessary expenses, discovering that most people wouldn't even notice or care. He encourages readers to do the same, emphasizing that financial freedom is more valuable than appearances. He introduces the concept of death to debt, parties celebrating debt payments with a small reward. This reinforces positive behavior and makes debt reduction more enjoyable. Once core debts are eliminated, a larger portion of profit distributions can be used for splurges, while still aggressively tackling long-term debt. Ultimately, the goal is to reach a point where 100% of profit distributions are yours to enjoy. Michalowicz then discusses the importance of locking in your lifestyle. Parkinson's law suggests that income expands to meet expenses, so it's crucial to avoid lifestyle inflation. He recommends a 5-year period of maintaining a consistent lifestyle, directing all extra income towards savings and investments. Alternatively, the wedge method involves saving half of any income increase, allowing for gradual lifestyle improvements while maximizing savings. Finally, Michalowicz extends the profit-first principles to children, advocating for a job list with corresponding pay rates to teach them the value of money and responsible financial habits. He suggests allocating their earnings into accounts for dreams, family contributions, charitable giving, emergencies, and spending. He shares a personal story about his daughter funding her college education and future wedding through her own earnings, demonstrating the long-term benefits of these lessons. He concludes by emphasizing that the profit-first lifestyle is about more than just money. It's about creating a life of freedom, purpose, and lasting impact. Chapter 11, How to Keep It from Falling Apart. Mike Michalowicz begins this chapter by stating the biggest challenge to the profit-first system isn't external factors like the economy, but rather ourselves. He explains that people often struggle with discipline, failing to fully commit to the system's steps, like the debt freeze or making necessary cuts to expenses. A common mistake is taking money allocated for profit to cover bills, essentially stealing from future success. Michalowicz emphasizes that going it alone is the primary reason Profit First fails. To illustrate this point, Michalowicz shares a story about his friend, Jeanette Harper, and her challenging experience at a winter survival camp in Minnesota. The camp forced city kids to adapt to harsh conditions and, crucially, to hold each other accountable for reducing food waste. The counselors set a goal to minimize leftovers, threatening a silly consequence square dancing if they failed. This created a sense of shared responsibility and encouraged the campers to strategize and support each other. The story highlights the power of accountability in achieving a goal, mirroring the need for a profit-first partner. Michalowicz points out 4 benefits of having an accountability buddy: increased commitment, shared burden, enforced plans, and consistent progress through regular check-ins. Michalowicz then dives into common mistakes entrepreneurs make when implementing Profit First. One frequent error is attempting to allocate too much to the profit account too quickly. He advises starting with a small percentage, building the habit of prioritizing profit gradually, increasing the allocation by only 1 or 2% each quarter. This approach allows businesses to become more efficient without being overwhelmed. He uses the example of Jorge and Jose, who adjusted their profit allocation to find a balance between profitability and continued growth, ultimately prioritizing employee retention through higher wages. Another mistake is believing that growth must come before profit. Michalowicz strongly disagrees, arguing that profit and growth are interconnected. He criticizes the grow-at-all-costs mentality, using Twitter as a cautionary tale. Despite years of growth, Twitter remains unprofitable, highlighting the dangers of prioritizing expansion over financial health. Michalowicz references Mark Cuban's investment criteria, which prioritizes profitability within 90 days. He asserts that focusing on profit first reveals the path to sustainable growth. Michalowicz also warns against cutting the wrong costs. While frugality is important, businesses should invest in things that improve efficiency and results. He shares a story about a knife factory using outdated equipment, resulting in inconsistent quality. Investing in modern tools, even if it requires initial expense, can lead to greater efficiency and profitability. He cautions against plowing back profit or reinvesting funds to cover expenses, as this indicates underlying financial issues. Similarly, raiding the tax account is a mistake, as tax obligations typically increase with profitability. He recommends regular check-ins with an accountant to accurately estimate and allocate taxes. He also addresses the temptation to overcomplicate the system. Michalowicz stresses that Profit First is designed to be simple and should not be burdened with unnecessary complexity. Finally, he emphasizes the importance of setting up separate bank accounts for each allocation. This ensures that Profit First remains visible and impactful, influencing daily financial decisions. He suggests working with a Profit First professional for guidance and accountability. Michalowicz concludes by encouraging readers to take action, emphasizing the importance of discipline and commitment to achieve lasting financial success. And that brings us to the end of our summary of this book. I hope you found it insightful and valuable. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more. Your support helps us bring you more great content. Thanks for watching.